Hey everybody, Bobby Chu here. So today I want to talk about careers and tips on how to fast track your career. More specifically, I want to take from my own experiences starting off as a teenager, 17 years old, till now, 23 years as a professional artist. What are the tips and tricks and things that have really helped me in my career that anybody can do? And that's what I want to talk about today. So number one, focus on the things that people older than you really care about and do it now. How do you get the ultimate fast track? How do you get 10 years beyond everybody else? Well, start caring about the things that people 10 years your elder care about right now. So for me, that was really way back when I was a teenager. I was thinking, okay, I'm 17 years old. What do people in my 20s care about? And more specifically, what do I think my 20-something-year-old version would care about? Because everybody's different, especially as we start to get older, our paths start to change and goals start to change quite dramatically as well. So for me, for my future self, I thought, okay, 10 years from now, what am I going to really care about? I'm going to really care about my career, getting a job. So if I could start that now, and yes, I know I'm 17 years old, I'm a teenager, I'm a student, but hey, lots of people with just the right amount of good, positive energy and the daringness to kind of ask for what they want, lots of people get this very quick head start in their careers, even as a teenager, just by putting in that effort and asking. So when I was a teenager, I asked to work in toys. I was working in the warehouse, started learning computer programs because that's what the 20-something-year-old Bobby would care about. Started learning this new program called Illustrator and Photoshop 2. And then when the opportunity came, I pounced on it. I asked, can I try it? Can I help? When they were really busy, they let me try, and then I got in. And even if I didn't get in at that point, I would just keep asking. In my 20s, what did I care about? Well, I started to think, what would I care about in my 30s? And that to me was making the world a better place than where I found it. And more specifically, the artist community. That's what I really cared about. So I started doing a lot of things for the artist community. I started to teach people on the subways of Toronto for free, just for the heck of it. Just trying to make the art community a better place in my hometown. I would just invite anybody that wants to come meet me to join up on the subways of Toronto. If they put in the effort to meet me, then I would put in the effort to teach them for free. That slowly evolved into other things like the YouTube channel, making all this content for the art community, just trying to do something positive. Because why not? We have this time on this earth, and we could either choose to do nothing, do something negative, or do something positive. So it looks like there's only one really good answer there. So then I started to interview artists. My favorite artists that I felt were totally like a lot of our artistic heroes, started to share these videos online and so on and so forth. And these little plant people videos as well came directly from thinking about what would the 30-something-year-old Bobby really care about, and that is to try to make the art community a better place than I found it. And now that I'm in my 40s, I start to think about what would the 50-something-year-old Bobby really care about? And that to me is balance, because I want to keep doing this for years and years, decades to come. Got to maintain that balance between work, rest, exercise, peace of mind, all that stuff. That's what I'm very inspired and motivated to do now. One of the other things that I'm really focused on is how do we truly do something big and fantastic that will live beyond my years? So hopefully that's Schoolism and Lightbox Expo. That's the new convention that I'm working on with Jim Damonakos. We are creating the biggest ever artist-focused event, and it's going to be happening in Pasadena, California, in the LA area. It's going to be fantastic. That's another thing that I'm super stoked about. So if you work on these things 10 years before your peers start to even worry or concern themselves about these topics, you would all of a sudden have a 10-year head start on your career, on making the art community a better place, on creating balance in your life, and so on and so forth. That's one of the most powerful ways to get a head start in your career. Number 2, do more than you're asked of. Now, a lot of times how we kind of determine how good of a job we're going to give is by how much are we getting paid. We want to get the right value for how much we're giving, of our time, of our efforts, things like that, which totally makes sense on paper. But one of the more helpful things that I started to do ever since I started off professionally is always trying to give people more than what they asked for. And I'll show you how it works. So for example, in the beginning, I didn't get very many well-paying jobs. A lot of times it was maybe a couple $100, things like that, and I might have to spend an entire week on the thing. Well, a lot of times what happens is we think, well, we're only getting paid $200. I'm going to give them a $200 or $300 job. But one of the things that I did, looking back in hindsight now, with total love and respect for however everybody's doing things now. There's many different ways to do things, but how I did things in the very beginning was if I got a $200, $300 job, I would try to give them a $2,000, $3,000 job. I would put in my heart and my soul into it and try to give them something that looks like it's worth thousands of dollars. Now, how does this benefit me? I spent way more time, way more effort. Well, number one, the client that I did the job for, will they call me back? Yes, they will almost definitely call me back because they got so much value for their dollar. Now, would I want to take the job? No, I probably wouldn't want to take the job because I don't want to do another $200, $300 job that takes me that much time, that much effort, and giving so much more. But what I will do with that job is I will put into my portfolio, and then all of a sudden my portfolio starts to fill with actual commercial work, things that I did for other people, and people can see the work that I'm doing for other people, and then they can imagine, okay, if I gave Bobby a few $1,000s for this job, this is what I can expect to get back. When your portfolio is full of nothing but really low-paying jobs that you did with that kind of mindset of giving them a low-paying job, then your portfolio won't be filled with anything kind of high-end. And for people with high-end jobs, with good-paying jobs, it'll be hard for them to imagine what you would do if they actually gave you the opportunity and gave you a job. So one thing I always kind of prided myself on is trying to give people more than what they asked for. And that's a really great way to jump leaps and bounds to the next level, to the next levels of your career really quickly. Number 3, make room in your schedule for learning. Now that is a super important one, and one that I am so thankful that I took so seriously from the very, very beginning. I always made sure that there was room in my schedule for learning. Times and days that are untouchable. If somebody comes in from out of town, hey, you want to meet up on Saturday? Sure, after 3 o'clock, because I'm learning from the morning till 3 o'clock, and so on and so forth. Or they could come join me and learn with me. Now this is very easy for students because generally that's our whole entire lives as students. We're just learning all the time. But as you become a professional, as you start to accomplish some of your goals, like your first goal would probably be get a job, like many of us. Of course, everybody has different goals, but many of us have that goal of getting that job. How did we get that job? Because we learned enough to do that job. But once we get that job, what's the first thing to go? Is the learning most of the time. Most of us stop actually taking classes, reading books, things like that. And instead we say, I'll learn on the job. That's going to be my education now, which is absolutely true. You do learn on your job, but you learn way quicker when you take a class that's specific, that is geared towards learning, not just doing and then learning from doing, but straight just learning. Of course, the best combination is to do both. That becomes very powerful. What I do is I schedule in time for learning the week before. That way it'll be locked in my schedule, so I'll make sure that I'll be learning something every week. Now, one of the surprise gifts of this habit is if you become very successful in your career and you still make sure that you create a space for learning, wow, you all of a sudden become one of the 0.01% of the artist population, because hardly anybody takes learning that seriously all the time, except for many of the greats. If you've been listening to my interviews, they are always trying to learn more and more. Number 4, get out there and meet people. A lot of us, we become really great artists because we're okay with spending time alone in our little dark room, just practicing drawing over and over again, hours on end, not saying a word to anybody, which really helped us in the beginning to get good at art. But it doesn't really help our art career if we don't learn how to communicate as well, especially in those industries where it's massive amounts of people, like video games, TV shows, movies. You're working with tons of other artists. So communication becomes a huge factor. Not just that, but when you go out there and you meet people, good things happen generally. That's how I got many of my first breaks in the very beginning, was because I was always traveling. I was always going to this convention, this show, this workshop. And when I go there, I'm not just on my phone playing video games. I'm up, I'm around, I'm talking with people. Now, some tips for those of you that might be a little bit of a wallflower, a little bit shyer. First kind of people to talk to, if you are a little bit nervous, is look for other people that feel kind of out of place as well. Maybe they came with their spouse, their coworker, their friend. Start talking to them first, because they are probably very happy to have anybody talk to them, and therefore it becomes a very easy win. The other great thing, which has always come very naturally to me, is that I just like to talk with people. I like hearing their stories. I like getting to know them. And this has really helped my career fast track in many ways, because there's been countless times where I was talking to somebody and at an event, and they weren't even an artist perhaps, but their husband or their wife was. And then all of a sudden they go, hey, listen, you got to come over here. You got to meet Sarah. Sarah's my wife. She is this incredible director, blah, blah, blah. And then we go over. Sarah's already surrounded by a crowd of people that wants to hear her talk, that wants to talk with her. And then the husband will come over and pull her aside and go, listen, hey, Sarah, come over here. You got to meet Bobby, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden I got this extra special FaceTime with this very high-profile artist or this very high-profile producer or person, whatever, all because I was talking with their spouse. Secret ingredient to this is to genuinely be interested to talk with people. Number 5, the 5th tip to fast-tracking your career, which is an amazing one, but nobody really does it. Not too many people do this at all. And that is, have an independent project going that will help your company. The best example I can think of this in the art world is Steve Spaz Williams and Mark DePay. They're the ones that created the animations of the dinosaurs, computer animated, for Jurassic Park in the very beginning. Now, did ILM want them to originally do computer animated dinosaurs? No, nobody wanted this stuff. Nobody thought it was a good idea. They were going to do stop motion. But Mark and Spaz, they're absolute trailblazers. They didn't care. They started working on it by themselves, covert up. And the story goes, it wasn't until a producer or something like that came into their room. They didn't cover up the video with the dinosaur just doing a walk cycle. And then the person looked at it and was like, holy smokes, what the heck is that? And all of a sudden, the computer animation revolution went into overdrive. Now, for me, probably the best example of this in my career was Nico and the Sword of Light. That came out as an animated comic book app. It took weekends. It took late nights, 2 years of our time. And that became #1 in its category in over 30 some odd countries in the App Store, and later on became a TV show, and later on won an Emmy, and so on and so forth, and we're about to go into season 2. So to summarize, focus and care about things that the older version of you would care about in like 10 years, and start doing that now. Start caring about that now. Do more than you're asked of. Make room in your schedule for learning. Don't forget to get out there and meet people. And then finally, have an independent project going on that will help the company. Now, if these tips make sense to you and you want to keep learning, make sure that you watch the video till the very end. Save $100 off an annual Schoolism subscription. This means you get over 200 lessons organized in over 25 different courses with access to download assignments and level up from top artists like digital painter Craig Mullins, character designer Wouter Tulp, Oscar nominees Dai Satsumi and Robert Kondo, and many, many more. Schoolism.com only has 1 or 2 sales a year for their online classes, so act now. This is a great one. Sale ends January 10th, 2019. Go to Schoolism.com and enroll today.